The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Friday, August 26th, 2022. I'm Christy Colbreth, the DDA's statewide coordinator of self-directed services. We welcome you to the DDA's Self-Directed Services Lunch and Learn series. Today we'll be reviewing Choice, Open Enrollment, and other information about the FMCS agencies. Before we begin, I'd like to go over a few things about the webinar. All participants are in listen-only mode. There are two options to hear the webinar, by computer and by phone. If you look in the panel interface on your right, there is a section labeled Audio. You can click on the computer or phone to switch for your best option. We have one handout in the platform today, and it is in the handout section. We're hearing from one person that it might not be downloadable, so we'll make sure we'll get that to you after the webinar. We are recording this webinar today. It will be posted on the DDA website and YouTube page. We will have time for questions today at the end, so please put your questions in the chat box. Today I'm joined by Rhonda Workman, the DDA's Director of Federal Programs. She will be facilitating our questions and answers. I'm seeing a couple of questions again about the handout. We will get that to you. I apologize. It's technical inability on my part, so we'll get that fixed for you. So we'll review our agenda for today. Today we'll review a definition of financial management and counseling services. We'll then review the open enrollment process for people who are currently self-directing. Then we'll go over the choice process for participants who are new to self-direction. And finally, we'll make sure you have the contact information for each FMCS, and Rhonda will then facilitate a question and answer portion. As a reminder, Maryland's FMCS agencies include GT Independence, Public Partnerships LLC, and the ARC Central Chesapeake Region. Links to the agency's websites are available on our websites and in our resources tab. I'd like to review what we're talking about when we say Financial Management and Counseling Services, or FMCS. FMCS agencies will support Marylanders who self-direct their services. The FMCS will replace the use of the Fiscal Management Service, or FMS. The FMCS agencies will complete the same activities and tasks that the current FMS does, but with enhanced supports and services like web portals with real-time reports, so participants and their teams can log on at any time to check their budget spending, online, phone, and in-person customer service, including a response to questions in one business day, smartphone and tablet applications for timekeeping and approval of that time, and multiple languages and other accessibility features. Now I'll review the process of open enrollment for people who are currently self-directing their services. There are 3 steps to open enrollment. Learn as much as you can about each FMCS agency, choose an FMCS agency, and take action steps to transition to your FMCS. Open enrollment for FMCSs began on August 1st, 2022, and will go through November 15th, 2022. If you do not choose an FMCS before November 15th, one will be chosen for you. It's important to note that if you currently use the ARC Central Chesapeake Region as your FMS, you will still need to choose an FMCS during open enrollment. You may choose any of the 3 FMCSs, including the ARC CCR. The first step in open enrollment is to learn about the new FMCS agencies. On August 1st, we recorded both of our informational fairs. Watch those videos if you have the time. I encourage you to especially take the time to watch the second half of the recordings. They contain all of the questions that were asked during those sessions. You will also have another opportunity to attend an informational fair. We will have another round in October, including another virtual session. We will have that information to you very soon. You can also connect with each FMCS by phone or email. You can schedule a meeting with each one to discuss their services. We recommend that you meet with your team to discuss what you've learned. You may meet with your CCS support broker or any other team member to discuss your decision. The next step of open enrollment is to choose an FMCS. Participants who are currently self-directing may choose to start their FMCS services on October 1st, 2022 or January 1st, 2023. Choosing an effective date gives the participant and the team time to make a transition with their new FMCS. The October and January 1st dates are at the beginning of a tax quarter, making the transition as simple as possible for participants, their employees, and vendors. You'll note here on our slide we see that October 1st may be chosen on or before September 1st, 2022. That allows 30 days to transition to the new FMCS services. After September 1st, January 1st may be chosen. So you can choose January 1st now through November 15th. When you decide on an FMCS, you must tell your coordinator of community service. Your CCS will confirm your choice and complete the FMCS participant choice form. The CCS will then assign the agency to you in LTSS, Maryland. The final step in open enrollment is to take action steps to transition to your chosen FMCS. With the support of your CCS and other team members, update your budget sheet to include your chosen FMCS agency and their fees. The newest version of the self-directed budget sheet includes a line item for your FMCS and has helpful tools to help you calculate how many months you need to budget for. You'll see on the slide that we have the fee schedule listed here. It's also available on our website. You also want to make sure your employees and vendors know your FMCS choice. Let them know that everyone involved, the DDA, your FMCS, and your team are all committed to make sure there are no missed payments during the transition process. And then you'll want to meet with your new FMCS team to make sure all of your employees and vendors have the correct paperwork for payment. The FMCS team will show you all their processes during this time. The steps for choosing an FMCS are different for people who are considering self-direction. So people who are transitioning from either a provider agency to self-direction or transitioning youth. For these folks, they will still need to learn as much as they can about each FMCS. Then they will choose an FMCS agency and effective date. It's important to note that the effective date can be any date the person would like to begin services. You'll want to share this information with your CCS. For CCSs on the call, it's important to remember that people who are transitioning to self-direction are transitioning from provider agency to self-direction or transitioning youth. People who are new to self-direction, that they will not need to complete the FMCS choice form. That's specifically for people who are currently self-directing. Once you've chosen your FMCS and are ready to begin your self-directed journey, you will need to make sure your PCP and budget are complete. Your PCP, participant agreement, rights and responsibilities documentation, your service implementation plan, and any other documents that show assessed need will be sent to the DDA for approval in LTSS Maryland. After the DDA reviews your PCP and approves it, you will send your self-directed budget sheet, family and staff form, and any wage exception forms to your chosen FMCS. They will make sure those documents meet program standards before you can begin your self-directed services. Here we have listed, again, we'll make sure we get this handout to you today. We have the contact information for each FMCS agency. We encourage teams to meet with each agency if they have the ability during September to discuss their the services that they provide and how they might be a fit for them. We've also included my information here. So my email is right here. It's christina.colbreth@maryland.gov. And we've also included your DDA regional self-directed leads. They are a great resource to you during the transition process. And here we have a list of tools and resources that will be helpful for you. We have our DDA website here with all of our guidance forms and our webinars. We have a dedicated FMCS webpage that includes an abundance of information on the FMCS. We've listed our training calendar here should you want to sign up for an informational fair in October or our lunch and learns that will be happening during September. And then we have links to the monthly fee schedule and the outline of open enrollment for people who are currently self-directing, as well as the recordings for both informational sessions at the beginning of August. That's a quick little spiel for me today. Now we'll enter into a time of question and answers. Rhonda, do we have any?
Yeah, thank you, Christy. And so again, today's focus topic was related to choice in the form. We're getting questions that are beyond our subject area. So we'll go through some of those, but we hope that you'll take the time to make sure, as Christy says, that you learn about the options and make informed choices. So first, to let you know, we did have a system issue with the upload of the PowerPoint. So we will be sending that out after the webinar. So you'll get that in addition to the recording being posted on the DDA Self-Directed Services webpage under the webinars. There's a question, Christy, related to, is EVV required for community development services? Would you like to address that or want me to?
I can, yeah. So that's a great question. EVV, so electronic visit verification. There are requirements from the federal government, and those requirements are specific to personal supports and respite. Now, these FMCSs, when you speak with them, have solutions for EVV to make sure that you or the person you support is in compliance with it. But it's important to know that those solutions can also be used. The platforms, the applications, the way they process the time can also be used for other services like community supports, but they're not required.
Great, thank you, Christy. So the next question is going into the COVID-19 form number 5, and it notes that that form 5 shows unallocated funds used. However, the self-directed budget sheet does not, okay? The question is there or will there be anywhere on the budget sheet to keep track of unallocated fund use? So can you share with our audience today which form should be used and our future plans for a new budget modification after the Appendix K flexibility is in?
I can. I think I actually have that budget sheet up. Can you see it?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Excellent. So on this budget sheet, this and the last iteration of it that was, I think, completed in April, we sent out a new budget sheet. Both do account for an unallocated funds line item. So if you're using a new updated version of our budget sheet, it will do that for you. But what's important to know is when we are trying to figure out how much unallocated funds a person might have, that's going to be the DDA budget allocation. That's from the detailed service authorization, the number that gets placed in this box beside the red arrow. It's going to be that number, and you're going to subtract the total amount of the budget total. So that can be found at the top of the budget sheet or at the very bottom of the budget sheet right here under total. So you want to subtract the total budget sheet from the DDA budget allocation, and that's your unallocated funds. But the budget sheet, the current one and the previous one from April, both have those.
Yeah, and so Christy, if you could leave that up for a minute. So a couple things, right? That when the participant with the support of their team enters information into the budget sheet, it will automatically calculate the self-directed budget total. So they don't have to grab that number and it'll automatically subtract it. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Okay. And then this question is about Form 5. Okay. The Form 5 budget modification. Yep. And so the question is that the budget modification form that they were looking at, maybe it was an older version, does not have unallocated funds, but the Form 5 does, which is what Christy is showing here on our screen today. And so in the future, when the Appendix K flexibility ends, which is targeted for September 30th, we will issue a new budget modification form that will not have any reference to COVID or the Form 5, and we will include a section so that you can note your unallocated funds. So our next question was the first Lunch and Learn self-directed budget sheet modifications recorded, and where can they find it?
I wanted to make sure I wasn't muted. It absolutely was recorded. I don't believe it's on our DDA website at this second, but it is available on the DDA YouTube page, which I have links here in this document, but we'll get out links to all of those available to you today as well.
And we can post the Lunch and Learns on the self-directed budget sheet or we'll post the links to the Lunch and Learn on the DDA self-directed web page under the webinar so that you can grab them too. That's the section we have all our webinars on. Mm-hmm. Let's see, I'm going to look for questions that are a little bit more relevant to everybody. One person had noted a issue with the budget sheet. They're seeing something different going on with it potentially. I've asked them to send an email to you, Christy, directly so we can research it. Mm-hmm. The next question is talking about the budget sheet. When the CCS completes the new budget sheet, if a person has an annual plan date of 10/6/2022, they choose the start date of the FMS as 1/1/2023. The cost of the FMCS increases before their annual plan date. How do we reflect the increase in the budget?
That's a great question. So we've outlined a couple of ways to do this, but to begin, I will say that in developing a budget sheet, that is a team process, and FMCSs are a part of that team. So there are folks at each FMCS who are available, and they have sophisticated tools to be able to help you budget accordingly. So a handful of things. So the question really is, if during the plan year the rate changes for your FMCS, what should we do? So there you have a few options. The first is you can budget the entire year at the higher rate and know that you will have cost savings at the end of the year. The second is to budget at the lower rate and know you will need to complete a budget modification before the end of the year to account for that rate increase. And the third, my favorite, is to calculate exactly the dollar amount that you need. based on how many months you need for which rate, and average it out into that rate per month. But again, your FMCS can support you in figuring out what makes the most sense for you.
And we've shared also that we'll explore possibly adding one more line item to the budget sheet for FMCS, so that if it's going to cross over July, then you can indicate the rate for so many months and then the new rate for the other months. So we'll look at maybe having that option in there too. Next question, do I have a chance to switch to a different FMCS after January 1st of 2023?
That is a great question. I think we get it every time we talk about FMCS. Yes. So in our guidance that we have written, we have it listed, and what we believe is a good suggestion, which would be to do it on a quarterly basis on the tax quarter. If you can, try to schedule that so that you're giving yourself enough time. But however, we are updating that guidance to say that you can change your FMCS at any time, as long as you give yourself and your team a 30-day runway in order to transition. And we want to make sure people are transitioning in a way that is useful to their employees. So we'll provide some more guidance on that. But yes, you can at any time as long as you have that 30-day window.
Thank you, Christy. Mm-hmm. And that's why we really want you to take your time to learn about the FMCSs and the options and the services and the tools they use, so you make that informed choice for your FMCS to be effective either October 1st or January 1st. But in the event that you may not be happy with those supports, then obviously work with your team to explore other options and make an informed choice for an FMCS. Christy, our next question is related to unallocated funds. They want to know if we could talk a little bit more about it. It says, individuals can put extra money on their budget and use it for future needs. What is the max of unallocated funds?
Okay, so I should probably start by defining what we mean by unallocated funds. So I'll start from the beginning. When a person completes a person-centered plan with their CCS in LTSS Maryland, they're listing the services that they need, and they are showing the assessed need. And that's what the DDA is approving. The DDA is approving a certain number of hours or services or goods for a person based on their assessed need. Those services come with a rate that the DDA pays. So the detailed service authorization then confirms the approval with a total budget amount. So a person might be approved for $100,000 in their total person-centered detailed service their total budget allocation. So they have $100,000 to budget. They then write their budget sheet. They may write their budget sheet up to the $100,000 as long as they stay within the parameters of the person-centered plan. So they need to make sure that the total number of hours that are approved in the PCP are listed in the budget. There cannot be additional hours added. It has to be the total that's approved in the PCP, as well as it should follow our reasonable and customary standards. So we have some rules laid out for how much a person may pay for a specific service to an employee or to a vendor. So the person can spend up to their $100,000 or whatever is approved in the detailed service authorization, and whatever is not budgeted in the budget sheet are unallocated funds. So there is no cap in what can be unallocated. But for many people, they are not allocating their entire budget. They may have $5,000 unallocated. They may have $20,000 unallocated. It really depends on how they write their budget sheet.
Right, and the important thing here to note is that when your person-centered plan is created, it's based on an assessed need for specific services and frequency of those services. So those services and the frequency, as Christy noted, should be reflected in your budget sheet. and so that you're getting those services to support your health and safety and your goals. And again, based on decisions that you make under your budget authority and your employer authority, you're setting wages, identifying rates for your vendors or providers, you're determining training or other things that you would be offering that are available under the program. And then that will generate potentially some savings or unallocated dollars. Christy, now we're going to move to a transitioning youth example. So you have shared in the fairs and the webinars that there are some people that may have started the process of going into self-direction before the FMCSs were brought on board, kind of during this transition period or after. So this question, this example says, if there's a transitioning youth that did the onboarding with the ARC, but has not yet started services due to a pending waiver, do they need a choice form or only a referral in LTSS? And for this example, Christy's going to share some thoughts related to it, but I would also suggest that you email or talk to the SDS lead or Christy so that we can really take a deeper dive and look at the individual specific situation to make sure we're giving you the most appropriate guidance. But in general, Christy, if a TY completed the onboarding with the ARC already, they've got a PCP, they're waiting for their pending waiver approval, do they need to do the choice form or only the referral in LTSS?
Great. So this is a good question. So first, the FMCS choice form is for people who are currently self-directing, and that does not sound like this person. In our informational fairs, we outlined a third process for folks, and these are for transitioning youth or people transitioning to self-direction who may have begun planning in late July or the first week of August. If people were starting to plan or onboarding with a chosen FMCS by that point, we did require people to still make a choice of FMCS between the three, so GT, Independence, PPL, and the ARC. Once that choice was made, they then choose an effective date that could be any date. But instead of the split submission from the PCP and budget sheet, those folks who had already begun planning in late July or early August, they would submit their PCP, their service implementation plans, their participant agreement, any documents that Support Assess need, along with the budget sheet to DDA through LTSS Maryland. And DDA would review the entire packet for folks and submit that to the FMCS once they were approved. But again, like Rhonda said, for specific situations, please reach out to the SDS lead in your region or to me, and we can make sure that we're giving you the exact correct guidance for what process should be done.
Thanks, Christy. We've got a couple more questions about Form 5. It says, if you're using Form 5 to increase funds in categories that are already maxed out, can they do that? Can you use Form 5 to move money to a budget line item that has already been expended or maxed out?
So I think the question is mostly about Appendix K. So I think it will really depend on what's happening and for what reason you would need to move funding from unallocated to something that's been already maxed out. For instance, there are some waiver rules regarding some line items. So I would need to know more. So if you've asked that question, please reach out to me. Let's make sure I don't give you incorrect guidance on how to move funding if it's allowable or not during Appendix K.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The same person also had a question. It says, example, if they use 5,000 of the individual family directed goods and services, and they try to use Form 5 to add more from unallocated, can they do that?
Oh, there it is. So no, right now the waiver requirements for individual and family directed goods and services would be a $5,000 limit. So if those have been spent, it would not be possible to move funds to that line.
Thank you. Next question. If the FMCS is part of the team, does that mean they have to be listed on and sign the participant agreement form?
I really like this question. So the way I see it, the participant agreement form, it can be used for several different things, right? It can be used for people to express that they will be the sole decision maker. That's option one. It can be used for that person to designate someone to make all of their self-directed decisions for them. That's option two. And then we have this special option 3, where people can list team members who will support them to do the tasks that are listed. And the way I see it is if a member from an FMCS is supporting a person to do a task listed, then yes, that person or the FMCS can be listed in the participant agreement. They don't have to be. The participant agreement is especially person-centered. So it would be really listing the actual people who are supporting a person in a task. So it could be an FMCS.
Thank you, Christy. Our next question is, where exactly is the referral form in LTSS?
That's a great question. We have a video available on our website that I'll make sure we add as a link in our email that we send out today that shows how a CCS will make a referral in LTSS Maryland for an FMCS. So we'll make sure we get that video for you. It's pretty excellent. It is a step-by-step with the screen share. So you should be able to use that.
Great, thank you, Christy. The next question is, when having a support broker become mandated effective 1/1/2023, please note that support brokers are not mandated effective 1/1/2023. We'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, but it says when support brokers are mandated and an individual is in mid-plan year, do we need to revise the plan to add some support broker, or can we wait till the next plan year to add the service? Do you want me to address this, or do you want to address it?
Yeah, you go ahead, Rhonda, because I think it'll have to do with the renewal.
Yeah, so a couple things. This person is asking about a requirement that is coming, a new requirement will be coming out from DDA based on legislation that was passed this past year, which in certain circumstance will require participants to have a support broker. When that goes into effect, the DDA will be sharing information and guidance related to it. We are putting it in our waiver renewal, and we'll be sharing a little bit of that next Thursday. But in this situation, the effective date of the renewal would be the date that we would want plans and things to be updated to reflect that requirement of a required support broker, which we'd be looking at next July. But again, we would be issuing updates and guidance related to that so that teams and individuals are aware and have time to do that planning and adjustments within their budgets and in their service delivery. Next question, are people able to still use or spend for COVID supplies if monies are in the FM budget, or did this option end as of last fiscal year? So related to COVID-19, there are masks and durable medical supplies available with the local health department. So if that's what you're looking for, suggest that you reach out to the local health department. Pharmacies also have some information available. So there are free items available to individuals. That's the last question that we have in the question box. So just a reminder, today's focus was on the choice process. Christy, can you do just a recap of the key points for today's webinar?
Sure. I love talking about this. It's one of my favorite things. So just a quick reminder, if people are currently self-directing, they do need to go through the process of open enrollment with an FMCS. Open enrollment is a one-time activity that they will be doing. They will learn as much as they should, learn as much as they can about each FMCS. They will then choose an FMCS and then take action steps. The choice includes, or the learning includes, learning about each FMCS through an informational fair. We have those recorded, and we will have more that are available in October. You can also reach out to FMCSs directly. The choice part, the choice function, will be choosing an FMCS, and then the CCS supporting the person to complete the participant choice form and the referral in LTSS Maryland. And then the take action steps are to complete that budget sheet to include the FMCS choice and their fees, as well as letting your employees and vendors know of your choice. And then most importantly, meeting with your new FMCS to do the onboarding to ensure that paperwork is ready for employees and vendors to be paid. We discussed a little bit about new folks, but new folks who are considering self-direction right now, they will pick an FMCS from the three. They will choose an FMCS and an effective date. The effective date can be any date that they want, not just October 1 or January 1. And then they'll submit their PCP and other related documents to the DDA. And their budget sheet, family of staff form, and other forms for payment, like exception forms, will be sent to the FMCS. My
Great.
favorite slide. Oh, I'm not even
Go
showing
ahead.
my slide. My favorite slide is our live contacts. We want to make sure we get this to you. Please take advantage of having this contact information for teams. If you are a CCS, I recommend that you meet with teams of people who are self-directing and try to schedule meetings or calls with each FMCS to make sure people understand their choice. And if you're a participant or a family member on the call right now, the direct numbers of these folks are available, so you could give them a call and ask them direct questions yourselves to understand their services better.
Great.
Yeah.
We had someone put in the question, a person-specific challenge associated with their family member and the current FMCS they're working with. So if you could reach out to Christy or the self-directed lead, we're happy to provide assistance to kind of remediate that. I'm going to put Christy's email directly in the response to you so that you'll have that, but we're happy to team up and support you and the team to get some resolution to your challenges there. The next question that came in relates to EVV, and it's interested in any document that summarizes how each FMCS handles EVV. This person notes they watched the August 1st webinar, and this information was not clear to them on how this was being handled by each company and the system requirements a participant employees will need. Mm-hmm. So Christy, do you want to talk a little bit about how a person can get more information about each FMCS EVV tools, their applications, and any additional information? How would they find out more about each FMCS EVV
Great.
processes?
Yeah, so each FMCS website is available. Their websites are all housed on our website, as well as in this PowerPoint today, so you can check out their website. Additionally, I can't express this enough, if you have very specific questions for how an FMCS is going to produce a product in order for a person to be compliant with EVV, the best place to get that information is directly from the company. So that's why we have this contact information there with direct phone numbers. So that's my advice. Set up those team meetings with each company. I think that's going to be really fruitful for a lot of teams.
Great, thank you. Any additional questions about our topic today, open enrollment, the choice, the process? Again, we really want to encourage you to do your due diligence, take your time, learn about these new agencies, call them directly. In our information fairs, they've offered to meet with you virtually at your house, at the Starbucks, wherever you're most comfortable to have one-to-one conversations. So they've got great customer service there, but you can ask them all kinds of questions and get your answers to them. In addition, Christy did share, we've completed our August information fairs. We will be offering additional information fairs. It'll be mostly the same content. That'll be occurring in October. And then as Christy's put up on the screen, we're excited to share additional information about self-direction through our Lunch and Learns. And so what we have here for September 9th, we'll go through the choice forms, service referrals and transfers. September 16th is related to the support broker's role in the FMCS transition. September 23rd, we're hoping to have the department subject matter experts to talk about the electronic visit verification. And then September 30th, we'll again repeat choice, open enrollment, and FMCS information. Our handouts will be shared with you afterwards. This recording will be posted on the DDA webpage under the self-directed webinars, in addition to uploaded into our YouTube. Another question came in. Christy says, some FMCSs are asking for the revised budgets to be emailed to them. Others are asking to upload in LTSS. Would that be in client attachments?
So that's a great question. So I believe I understand the reason why. So for people, we've been pretty clear that teams need to continuously work with their FMCS during transition. And this is really because FMCSs are not going to have access to a person's data in LTSS until that effective date. And so you might be hearing that you can upload for people who have an effective date after the date that the FMCS is asking for it. They have access to LTSS Maryland for the person and can pull up that budget sheet from there in client attachments. But for people who are transitioning especially, or people who are starting up their self-directed services and they may not be at the effective date of their referral, you're going to need to email or submit to the FMCS in a different way the budget sheet, because they're not going to have access to it.
Yeah, and I would say if the FMCS is requesting that information as you're working through that transition or setup, then I would get that information to the FMCS. If you're a CCS, absolutely you should be uploading information in LTSS as the system of record. But if you get a request for information, please be responsive to the request so that we ensure that people are set up and supported with continuity of their services. We did get a few questions about electronic timesheets being required or mandatory for all FMCSs. Please note that under the electronic visit verification, electronic, in a sense, timesheets will be required, as Christy said, for personal supports and respite. The FMCSs have amazing new customer-friendly tools, web portals, and applications so that electronic timesheets can be completed on all services. In addition, they've got new ways or enhanced strategies in customer service options through all three of them. Related to vendor invoices, in addition to mileage. We talked a lot about this during our information fairs. Again, highly recommend that you reach out to each agency to get more information about their tools and their process for submitting timesheets, for submitting invoices, for submitting mileage reimbursement. They all have some great strategies that will be very supportive and timely in terms of processing that. So with that, we'll just wait a few minutes to see if we have any new questions. Christy, you want to put up the leads? Do we have the slide that has the leads contacts?
It does.
Yep.
And Tia's email is wrong. Let me fix that. She's got a 2 on it.
Okay, thank you.
There you go.
So here's the leads for your region. If you have a challenge, concern, would like some assistance, Christy's email's there too, but the leads are your direct contact, and Christy's always available to help support and consult. You've got your coordinators of community services. The FMCSs are ready. They've got customer service lines. They've got different languages that they can access to support you. So we encourage you to reach out to them too.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing no new questions, Christy, you want to close us out for today?
Sure do. Thank you so much for coming today. You'll get a copy of this presentation after. There is a quick survey after as well. So if you could complete that survey once the webinar is complete, it would be much appreciated. Have a good Friday, everyone.